Cryptkowski Brothers, and we are in Hodag Country.
To the beautiful, picturesque pine trees of Pioneer Park, Rhinelander, Wisconsin. Now, there's a Native American people that lives up in the Northwoods of Wisconsin. They call themselves the Anishinaabe. We know them as the Ojibwe people. They live up in Lac Des Lac, Lac de Flambeau, the Sakaga tribe, and Mold Lake, and Crandon, and in fact, right here in the Rhinelander area. And they have been telling stories about strange creatures roaming the forest for thousands of years. One of the animals that they believe in is called Mishipishu, the water panther spirit. Now, I'll show you a picture when we go into the bunkhouse here in a few minutes of Mishipishu, the water panther spirit. Our Hodag has a striking resemblance to that creature, a cousin of that animal, we like to say. So people have been roaming the forests of northern Wisconsin since the end of the last glacier melted 11,000 years ago. Now, 130 years ago, there was a guy that lived here in Rhinelander by the name of Eugene Simeon Shepard. Gene Shepard was a lumberjack, a timber cruiser, a land surveyor, a map maker, a horse racer, a carpenter, a resort owner, a Gene of all trades, I like to say. And he spent a lot of time with the Anishinaabe people. He spent a lot of time hanging out in bunkhouses of lumberjack logging camps, hearing stories about the oxen that would die in the woods, that they would put on a funeral pyre and burn for 7 continuous years, and then the spirit of that dead oxen would escape into the woods to become a strange horned creature that they called We have tens of thousands of black bears, and for their part, they're relatively harmless unless they stop by your house and destroy your garbage cans, like one did at my house 2 nights ago. I'm not crabby about that, whatever. I had garbage all over my yard. Thank you, Mr. Black Bear. But I digress. Back to the whole north of town. Sure enough, Gene discovers the furry backside of an animal. But he had never seen a black bear with green-tinted fur, white spikes down its long tail. So Gene put some rocks in front of the hole, and he quickly came back to Rhinelander, and he went downtown to an area that we call the Hollow. Downtown, that's where the lumberjacks used to hang out. They called it the Hungry Hollow or the Thirsty Hollow. 130 years ago, there were 57 lumberjack saloons and inns down in the Hollow. So it didn't take long for Gene to drum up a large posse of rough and tumble lumberjacks and went back out to the whole north of town, and they took with them this very pike pole that's hanging from the ceiling. Pike pole is a special tool used by lumberjacks to move logs around the water before they're sent to the sawmill to be sawn into lumber, which is how we got our lake named here Boom Lake. Hodag Park is on Boom Lake. So at the spike end of the pike pole, they put a piece of cloth with some sleeping medication, and they slowly stuck it into the back of the hole where this creature was taking a nap. Gene got down on his hands and knees, climbed into the hole. This beast was sleeping, slumbering ever so quietly. He grabbed the creature by the tail, whatever it was, and he slowly pulled it out. And as soon as the lantern light hit this creature's face, its eyes popped open and sprung upon the lumberjacks. Now, one of the lumberjacks had brought along his pet white bulldog for protection. And I'm very sad to report that this vicious beast turned upon that poor little white bulldog and gobbled it up in one single bite. And that is how legend has it here in Rhinelander, this creature acquired the taste for white bulldogs ever after. Now, after a wrestling match in the forest, they were able to subdue this beast, chain it to a wagon they had brought along, get a better look at it. Much like the creature in the display case here, was about 7 feet long, it weighed about 300 pounds. 30 inches tall at the shoulder. It was lizard-like and prehistoric in nature, covered in dark green and black shaggy fur. It had 12 white spikes along its back, 13 including one long one at the end of its tail. I can almost hear you counting the spikes in your hands right now. It had oxen-like horns, tusks for teeth, and razor-sharp claws. And Gene Shepard figured he had finally captured a Mishipishu, a water panther spirit, a Hodag of lumberjack legends. They brought the Hodag back to Rhinelander to Gene's house, which is at an old estate a couple blocks from here on Prospect Street. It's a place called The Pines. There's a home there we call the Hodag House. It is painted green, as you can imagine. Behind the Hodag House, Gene's son Leighton, who's about your age, dug a big pit in the backyard. They chained the Hodag to the bottom of the pit. They built a big stone barn over the top of the pit. All this you can drive by and see to this very day. It's on our Hodag History Tour back during Hodag Heritage Festival. Well, next thing you know, word traveled far and wide. Newspaper headlines across the country were printing headlines about this strange, vicious beast they had captured in the old-growth forest of northern Wisconsin, and people came flocking to Rhinelander to catch a glimpse of this strange prehistoric creature that Gene Shepard had captured that they were calling the Hodag. If you're like me, and you like to go walking on the trails through the Humboldt Forest, through the last of the big pine trees that still grow in this area, from time to time I smell strange odors in the air. Find tufts of dark green and black fur alongside the trail, holes dug into the sides of hills, claw marks on big pine trees, glimpses of creatures moving through the forest. And I believe that wild hodags still roam these parts to this very day. And true to the tale, you will never see any white bulldogs.
The map is not.
So that is my legend of the Hodag. That's the story. I'm sticking to it.
Was the Hodag ever studied with any other mythical creatures or something like that?
So consider this. 10,000 years ago, right where we're standing, was a mile-thick sheet of ice, a huge glacier. So imagine walking a mile. That's a long way, right? Now imagine a chunk of ice right here where we're standing, a mile high in the sky. So there was no trees, no vegetation, just this mile-thick sheet of ice that covered all of northern Wisconsin. When that sheet of ice started to melt and recede back up into Canada, animals started moving into this area as the forests and the swamps and the lakes started to develop. Some of those animals were giant sloths, mastodons, saber-toothed cats, and who knows what other strange animals there were up here. And then people started to move up into northern Wisconsin, the Paleo-Native Americans, the Archaic Native Americans, and they saw all these animals. Mastodons, they hunted them, these giant sloths, these saber-toothed cats. Who knows what other types of creatures were up here in the haunts of northern Wisconsin in the early prehistoric days. So I have no doubts that hodags were probably, or Mishapishus, water panthers, were probably part of the group of creatures that were roaming about the forest up here. And, you know, whenever we talk about like mythological creatures, whenever we talk about cryptids, whenever we talk about Bigfoot, whenever we talk about the Loch Ness Monster, whenever we talk about Chupacabra or Mothman or any of those creatures, there's always grains and elements of truth to all those stories. They get started somewhere. So the Hodag is very much the same as all those creatures. These stories are, there's truth to all of these tales, to all of these legends. So to answer your question more specifically, I can't say that I've ever heard a story about like a Bigfoot and a Sasquatch and a Hodag walking, hand in hand through the woods. Did they roam about the forest together? I believe they probably did. Yeah, absolutely.
Is there any other Hodags left?
So a lot of times people think that Hodags are just the Hodag, full stop. There was one Hodag. I don't believe that. I believe that Hodags, based on the writings and the documents that Gene Shepard left, the newspaper articles that he wrote, the tales and legends that he passed down by just talking with people, that Hodags are a species of creature. And their Latin scientific name is bovine spiritualis. So it's my belief that there are lots of Hodags, that their historic range was across the Midwest, going from Maine to Montana. So these creatures roamed the forest in all of those areas, and finally in the late 1800s, it was the Rhinelander, Wisconsin area where there was a couple Hodags left. So there's another part of Gene's story. He went back out to the Hodag lair, and inside he found 9 Hodag eggs. So even though they're a warm-blooded, fur-bearing creature, they lay eggs, kind of like a platypus. You guys know what a platypus is?
Yeah, and like how 4 other creatures do that today. That type of creature was real rare.
Okay, so you could put Hodags in that rare creature category. So being warm-blooded and fur-bearing, but egg-laying. So he brought the eggs back to his house over at the Pines, and he hatched out 7 Hodag pups. And he tried to raise these pups, and as they got older, they became more and more vicious and bloodthirsty, and they were eating like 5 deer a day. And so he had to release them. So what he did was he put these young Hodag pups into his boat and he rowed it across the Pelican River and released the Hodags into the Holmboe Forest, which is where there's a great hiking trail today. So I think that there might be some Hodags still roaming about the Holmboe Forest, but there are very deep reaches of forests and swamps up here in northern Wisconsin that nobody goes to, ever. You just can't go back there because it's so tough to walk through the swamps and around the lakes and into the deep woods. And I think that's where, these creatures like Sasquatch and Hodags probably are holding out, waiting for some daring do scientists to come back and investigate.
Has Hodags been seen in other states or other places, not Wisconsin?
So most of the sightings have been in Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin, but if you go through the newspaper archives, online you can get access to newspapers that go back, 100, 200 years. And newspaper articles from the 1800s and 1900s talk about Hodags being discovered and spotted in Montana, in Michigan, Minnesota, even in Arizona. So, there's a lot of different places. The reason that Hodags became so popular in Rhinelander was because Gene had, of course, captured a live Hodag, raised some Hodag pups. It became really prominent in Rhinelander's history and heritage. And the community of Rhinelander embraced these stories, embraced these legends. That's why everywhere you go in Rhinelander, you see Hodags, statues, murals. The Rhinelander High School, if you go to Rhinelander High School, you are a Hodag. If you live in Rhinelander, you are a Hodag. So you can see there's Hodags on all these yearbooks. In 1918, this is the first yearbook they ever did called the Hodag. So, that goes back over 100 years ago.
Has there ever been any times where it's been said a Hodag has been killed?
I think like a lot of animals that die or get killed in the forest, sometimes they crawl away to secret places. And so far as evidence of Hodags outside of Gene's capturing, there has been a few things. I'll show you something right out here. So this is a Hodag skull that was discovered by a guy named Clayton Bailey. And so this was a skeleton of a Hodag that he discovered in the forest. So a little bit of evidence as far as Hodags being killed. Discovered another live Hodag, captured it alive, and then put it on display at our first county fair. But I want to show you a couple books here. So this is a very rare book that Gene Shepard wrote called Paul Bunyan, His Camp and Wife. This is a very old manuscript that I found at the Pines Estate in the barn. This was a newer copy that somebody had on their library shelf. But if you look in here, this is an envelope from Mrs. E.S. Shepard. So she, after Gene died, was selling these books by mail. And inside this book, there are pictures of the Pines Estate and stories about Hodags. There's a picture of a Hodag, the origin of the Hodag. So this is, in Gene's own words, some of the best information we have about Hodags. This is the book that was written by his friend, Luke Kearney, which has a Hodag on it. And inside of it is stories about lumberjack stories, tales, including the Hodag. So we've got lots of old books like that.
Is there any pictures of the Hodag being there at that county fair?
None that I've seen. I would love to find one.
Don, do you believe in Hodags now?
So let's talk about believing in Hodags, okay? There's a lot of people in Rhinelander that at the very end of the day, Hodags are a lot of fun. And we love it. We love Hodags here. They're on our water towers. They're our high school mascot. We take Hodags very seriously here in Rhinelander, and there's a reason for that. Now, I know you guys do a lot of research about other cryptids and other monsters and creatures, right?
Yep.
So have you ever seen a Sasquatch with your own two eyes?
Nope.
Nope.
Have you
I've
seen
heard
evidence that makes you believe in a Sasquatch?
Yes.
Footprints. We got rocks thrown at us when we tried to search for them.
I found a torch, a bird torch in the middle of nowhere.
I
A
found
sign that said no trespassing in the middle of nowhere that disappeared from our relatives.
then came there for some reason.
So I would argue that there is no more or less evidence to prove one way or the other, or disprove that Sasquatch is real. And the same is true for Hodags. A lot of stories about Hodags and their sleep habits and whether or not they hibernate during the wintertime. There's some stories that say, kind of like a snowshoe hare, during the winter months, a Hodag's fur turns white. And then some people say they see a snowdag. And that way they can blend in with the snow a little bit better. And then in the spring and the summertime, they turn brown, black, green, so that they can blend in with their environment better. All right, so this is the baby Hodag over here. And the baby Hodag's being very carefully watched by the mama Hodag over here. But just some more examples of Hodags from town. You have this. These Hodags used to be on the light poles downtown in the 50s and 60s. This Hodag mural was in A&W root beer stand here in town. Hodags on the flags. The Oneida County Fair was called the Hodag Fair for a long time. There's a Hodag license plate up there. But in here we have some more Hodags even. So we have some Hodags figurines that were put together for the centennial of Rhinelander's history. There used to be a bar in town called the Hodag Bar. You saw that big wooden cut Hodag out front?
Huh?
I'll show it to you when we walk out there, but that was the one that was on top of the Hodag Bar. We got a Charlie Brown Hodag. This Hodag was on the back bar of the Hodag Bar, and that's over 100 years old. You know, different Hodags from all over the country. There's a paper mache Hodag, a wooden Hodag. This right here, pull this down. This is an actual club. There's a capture photo of the Hodag. This is an actual club that was used and owned by Gene Shepherd when he would go out into the woods and go Hodag hunting. They say that he put a notch on his club for every Hodag that he captured. So what did he do with all these Hodags? Nobody really knows.
I think I know.
What do you think he did?
He cooked them.
Well, I'm not sure.
Here, you gotta grab onto that. Just you can feel what a beastie club that is.
Is it okay if I go to the car? Why is it like Hodag everything?
Everything's Hodag.
But was this a Hodag store? What store you thought this was? The Hodag. What store do you thought this was? The every crypto store. Everything you're gonna see in this store is probably gonna be Hodag. It's very hard Bulldog. Well,
But why not you went to Bulldog to in the first place? Because you could see them by the Hodag, literally.
Walkers? That's the Hodag store. That's not man. Dog toy for the Hodag. I think I know which type of dog would like to beat this one up the most. What type of dog does the Hodag eat a lot? Well, Hodag.
White Bulldogs? Look,
Yeah, white bulldogs.
fridge magnet. Hodag sodas. Hodag fireworks. I'm not sure if they're supposed to be exploded open.
Down. Sorry. Hodag mouse pads. Hodag, whatever these things are. Do you know?
Rain pouches. Hodag t-shirts. More Hodag t-shirts. More
Hodag
t-shirts.
cat toys.
Adult. That's a lot of pins.
Always has a Hodag gaming toy.
That is a lot of pins.
What do you expect? This is the Hodag store, not the Godzilla store.
Hey, look.
Making a video game?
Beer, cheese, and Rhinelander Hodag. And more cheese. because no one could resist cheese. Hodag. What is this? I don't even know what this creature is, but Mothman, Hodag. Of course, I could. Like, how could I not know? What? Not. It's a lot of. Grand Hodag. We're born in Rhinelander and.
When we first started up the Hodag store, and I just had some Hodags on this one shelf right here, this trucker guy from Louisiana stopped by. He said, I come into town and I seen that green horn thing out there, and I seen you had a few of them for sale here. So ever since then, the green horn thing has stuck around.
Yeah, I love how you just have a bunch of it. Wait, is this every time someone's called it a green horn thing?
Yeah, people do.
Tell us about the House of Hodag.
Well, the House of Hodags is an Airbnb right behind the store that you can rent out for the weekend. And it's a house filled with hundreds of Hodags.
How much does it cost?
It's about the same price as a hotel, so about $100, $130, something like that in that area.
There's a lot of Hodags. Look, there's the dog.
Wait, why do those ones look like silver?
My Hodag is
Yeah, you get your own Hodag here in the corner, and I like to call this the family portraits up here on the wall, all the kids.
Wait, is that every Hodag in that house?
That's not every Hodag around town, but it's almost every Hodag.
How many Hodags are in this whole house?
Well, somebody's staying here at the house, counted them all, and he counted 257 Hodags in this house.
Wait, so he counted every Hodag
He
painting?
counted every Hodag painting, every Hodag on every pillow, on the
Every little picture on every blanket?
all the Hodags on the blankets. Yup.
What the flip flap? Hodag all around this whole thing?
Hodags everywhere. This is an old. You might have seen the lumberjack postcard over there. It was a really old time capture. This is like a 50s reenactment of that picture. So
Yeah,
the
this
kid
was-
is the same kid, if I remember correctly. In the picture, no, he's in here someplace though.
This one?
Yep, they smeared ketchup all over him. You can't see because it's a black and white photo, but in real life they smeared ketchup all over him.
So also, this was the original picture of it?
That's the original one. That's the one Gene Shepard captured and found in the woods.
What inspired you to start the Hodag store in the first place?
Well, I had customers that were always coming into our antique store, and they were asking at the checkout, where do I get a Hodag keychain, a trinket, or a doodad in town? And there wasn't really a spot to send them to, so we made them a fun, unique place to get some Hodags at.
How much of the Hodag stuff is custom made, and how much of the Hodag stuff do you get from our people?
Well, I get about 50 to 60% of all this stuff either made, printed, or assembled here in Rhinelander. So all the t-shirts, the coffee cups, the pint glasses, glassware, the hats are all embroidered here. Stickers are made in town. The mouse pads are made in town. We have books from local Rhinelander authors. And then the other 40% of everything I source artwork from other Instagram artists or local artists, and then we go out and get that Hodag custom made.
How long has the Hodag Store been around?
I opened the Hodag Store on May 4th, 2018, so a little over 5 years ago.
Why did you make the Hodag van?
Well, it was a van that I just happened to have. When I had the antique store, we used it to go and clean out garages and estate sales and things like that. And when we started transforming the store to green Hodag-y everything, we decided we might as well have a Hodag van. And I found a artist that was like a California graffiti artist who happened to just be in town, and we got him to spray paint it.
What events do you take the Hodag van?
The Hodag van, well, I take that to mainly just local events around town. Anything that's happening downtown, like a trick-or-treating event, the local county fairs, sidewalk sales and stuff like that. I go to other events outside of Rhinelander in the state, and I usually just take my car or like a U-Haul or something for that. So we've been to Mothman Festival, Cryptkowski Van Meter Visitor Festival, Milwaukee Crawfish Knot and Paranormal Conference, and that's about it so far.
Well, I have a buddy in town.
Till next time, Hodag Country, we're out of here!
Where do you stay yourself?
Me? I sleep in the store.